All righty. Welcome everybody. This wonderful, beautiful day to the Educators Wellness Program. We'd like to introduce our host this evening, Dr. Akidotu Merino. Dr. Merino is a psychologist and professor of psychology who spent the first 10 years of her professional life as a K-12 teacher before moving to higher education. She is also a mental health advocate with a passion for healing trauma wounds, who believes that trauma bonding is pseudo love. Her dissertation was on the psychological well-being and collective self-esteem of urban teachers. She firmly believes that mental health is community health and that trauma is highly correlated to a maladjusted life. We believe that wellness is a pursuit. Dr. Merino is a mental health commissioner in Southern California since 2012 and is the founder of Black Women Congress and the African Mental Health Alliance. She is the CEO of Jazz Education Group and the president of Jazz Education Institute. The mission of the Institute is to train coaches and leaders in trauma and mental wellness continuing education. Akidotu is a passionate, emotional wellness advocate. She is the founder of the Perfect Fit relationship model, where they teach that it is within the context of healthy relationships that healing occurs. Please, everybody, put your hands together and welcome Dr.
Funny.
Mary.
Your hands together. That is funny. All right. Thank you so much for that introduction. Without further ado, we're going to start this. Look, guys, this is going to be a workshop that I hope you leave this one changed, or at least you've moved further into your healing journey. So we want to talk about wellness as it pertains to educators. We've been, for the past year, especially since this pandemic in 2020, we've been across this globe on Zoom training people on trauma-informed care, talking about mental health. But I wanted to specifically look at educators, because I come from a family of educators. My mom was a teacher. I taught school. Like that intro said, my first 10 years or so, I was a 7th, 8th grade teacher. And during my lunchtime, I remember, students would come, they want to talk to you about stuff. And then I also had what in the United States we call opportunity or alternative students in California. We call them alternative student classes. And these were students who were, look, in my class, I had gangbangers, I had pregnant teenagers, I had some kids who were on drugs, I had all kinds of kids in that particular class. So let me tell you, I was 23 years old or so, and I was teaching this, and it was traumatic for me. A whole experience. I remember one day, somebody came into the room and said, "I'm going to blow your brains up." And I was like, and I believed them. And I ran into the restroom. I remember just started bawling my eyes out because I was like, what did I get myself into? I taught at a school where it was, poverty, and most of the students were low and reduced lunch. The one common thread for that school was that they just did not have enough to maintain their lives. And so there was all kinds of issues that we encountered. But within that group, years later, we formulate, I don't know if some of you know a program called AVID. It's called Advancement via Individual Determination. And this particular program was created for students who were the first in their families to ever go to college. And so they were middle kids, they weren't failing and they weren't passing, they were just right there in the middle. and you would just take them and work with them. And what I did was just, tell them how wonderful they were and what we're going to do. And we did a lot of things. Fast forward years later, some of the students are doing very well. Some of them went to college, they graduated, they're doing well. However, the trauma and the stressors of teaching never stops. Some of you are going to talk about some of your stressors today. From there, I then decided, look, I need to get paid for all this counseling that I do with the students. Let me go and learn some more. So I went and got my PhD in family psychology and started teaching in higher ed. I've done everything from adjunct professor to, director of training to the department chair to, vice president of academic affairs. So I've done a lot in terms of education. And I say all this to say that even though I might not be in the K through 12 setting right now, some of you don't call it that in your countries. I've seen people say that they do primary school. I don't know if there's another name for it, another country. What do you guys call it? Whatever you call it, they're all kids anyway. And there's stresses of being an educator, no matter what level. I found out when I remember I was at Valley College and I was teaching the 2-year colleges back in those days, and you're teaching your psychology 101, and the students come in, they don't even know what to do because that's the first time they've ever been to anything called a college. And some of them, you just have to meet them where they're at and bring them up. And there's so many issues that students go through. And we are told, take care of the students, but who is taking care of the educators? Who is taking care of the educators? Who takes care of us? Who takes care of our well-being? So this is what this is about today. This is, the students are important. We take care of them. We do our best. You take work home. You do what you're supposed to do. But your well-being is highly correlated to the academic success of your students. Do you know this? So this is why we're doing this, not just because we want our students to do well, but also your well-being determines how effective you're going to be in the classroom. It determines your, it even impacts how long you live. That's this. So this is really important. So let's take a look. I have a PowerPoint. I know educators love PowerPoint. So we have a PowerPoint for you, and we're going to take it from there. So this is how this is going to go today. I'll talk for like, I don't know, I'll finish the PowerPoint. And then if you have any comments and any questions, put it on the chat box and we'll have the conversation. I want this to be experiential. I'm not going to be the only one talking. I hope everyone gets to participate, and we'll take it from there. All right, so let's do this. So slide, let's start from the beginning. It's always a good idea to start from the beginning. All right, so we've talked, so on the chat box, or in the chat box, I want you to do this. What are some of the stresses that you experience in your profession, in this particular profession? Just tell me a little bit what you experience. What are some of the experiences that are stressful for you just being an educator? So you might be a teacher, you might be an administrator who runs a school, who is in charge of a school. In other parts of the world, they call them proprietors. You might be a headmaster, headmistress. You could be a staff member, a librarian. Anyone who is student facing understands the stresses of this profession. So let me hear you. Yeah, somebody says a passionate edupreneur. Okay, excellent. So that's there too. So I'm waiting for you guys to tell me what are some of the stressors you would encounter in this profession. What are some of the stressors that you would encounter in the profession? So let's Let's hear you. Soothing distressed behavior. Absolutely. Yes. That's like a #1 job, isn't it? Yes. Anything else? Anyone else? Financial security. I saw that. Sorry, I overlooked that. Grading papers, creating teaching and learning content, self-care. Overburdened with many periods for teaching. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Teaching families. Whoa. Or reaching families. Yeah, that could be something else. Mentoring other teachers. Yeah, absolutely. So you can keep it coming. I want us to participate. So educators' stress impacts their well-being. I mean, like there's nothing else we can say about this. The educator's stress impacts their well-being. Teaching might look like, that kind of profession that is less stressful than other professions. Actually, that is not true. According to a recent poll, 46% of educators in the United States report high daily stress, okay? And which ties them with nurses for being the most stressful occupation in the United States. And I'm sure this can be replicated all across this globe. So when we talk about the most stressed professionals, period, will be educators and nurses. And why is that? Well, one of the reasons I'm thinking is because it's a helping profession. So maybe the people who gravitate towards teaching and nursing and those kind of jobs are naturally empaths. They're naturally people who care a lot more than the ordinary person. And so which one is it because of your innate ability to help that gets you to this kind of job and even makes you more stressed than any other profession? This becomes before it becomes a pandemic or an endemic in our nation, we need to make sure that we take care of it. 61% of educators say that their work is always and often stressful, and over 50% say that they don't have the same enthusiasm as they had before when they started teaching. There was a survey in 2017. I'm bringing this up because this was 2017, years ago. I'm sure it's higher now when we do it. 58% of educators characterize their mental health as not good. And that is a huge jump from 24% in 2015. And then we now add to this a global pandemic. People are locked in their homes. We're teaching from home, where a lot of pressures are on teachers to be everything, to get online, make sure that they participate, do all of the things that you're supposed to do in this new environment that we have. And so this pressure just keeps piling up. And so we have some of you have said it there. We have behavioral problems from students. We have standardized testing, unstable leadership. All of these are pressures, and I think that some of you have listed them here as teaching distressed teenagers, financing and organizing, coping with different behaviors of students. I knew somebody was going to talk about that. So these are some of the relationships that we find. There's a negative relationship between emotional exhaustion in educators and the average student grades. There's the test scores and the school satisfaction. So we find that the teachers who are exhausted, okay, so it's a negative correlation. So this is a way to interpret it. The teachers who are emotionally exhausted will usually have students who have lower test grades, lower test scores, and low school satisfaction. And the opposite is also true. That teachers who doing well mentally, emotionally, they also have students who are excited about school. The students do better in the classroom. So mentally exhausted educators also then suffer physically, because there's a correlation between exhaustion and ailments. And so there was a research that showed that 75% of educators have experienced psychological, physical, or behavioral symptoms because of work. 75%. 75. 75% is a lot. So this is why we should be talking about this. That is a higher proportion, is a significantly higher proportion than the overall population. 75%. At least when we talk about mental illness or mental distress in my field, we're talking 1 in 4. But here we're talking 75% of educators. So sick and apathetic educators miss school more often, or you do go to school because you have to go, but you're disengaged, and you just, sometimes you just try to do what you can do to get through this. Some teachers literally just leave, or educators leave after a few years of teaching. They just leave. They leave. They don't want to do this. This is not where they want to be, because the stressors are too much. And so these are some of the relationships and some of the relationships I want to highlight today for us. When we talk about student behaviors, you can list some of the behaviors that you've come across in the chat box, so we can, if it's not on here. Some of student behaviors will be hostility towards educators, inattention during class, and this is not just K through 12. We're not just talking about elementary school students or middle school students or secondary school students, all the way to college and universities. You find this too. Inattention during class, noisiness, lack of effort in the classroom, unpreparedness for class, hyperactivity, disregard for school rules, damage to school property, hostility towards other students, lack of interest in learning. And during this pandemic, everybody is going through what I call a collective trauma. So there's a collective trauma in the sense of how we're perceiving life, or of the damage the pandemic has done. When you hear 500,000 people in California, my state, 500,000 people in the United States have died in this pandemic, then there's a problem. And so it is something that we just need to know, that the students that we're seeing online are also dealing with it. They're part of this collective trauma. They're dealing with all of the issues that we're dealing with, but then you have to teach them. And then you have to let them, you want them to pay attention in class. You want them to be the perfect student. And that's just not happening. And with some of the feedback that we're getting from teachers, that's just not happening. Students are there, they're chewing on their pens, they're listening to music, they're talking to their parents, they're doing all kinds of things, but doing exactly what you want them to do. And so this can be frustrating for the teacher. This can be stressful for the educators who have to deal with this behavioral issues. And then you have institutional issues or institutional factors. And look, add some more if it's not what you have in mind is not listed here. Add it to the chat box. Let's know. So growing class sizes, low pay, high duties, lack of resources in some parts of the world, or some parts, in different parts of the world, or just sectors of even the even the United States. There are areas that have lack of resources at their schools. So all of this factor into you doing more, into you spending your money, into you spending your time, into you have, I remember I used to grade papers when I would take my children to, when we went to like soccer field or any extracurricular activities, I'll still take papers trying to grade them. And so these are things that impact us. It might not be a big trauma, a big T trauma, but they're little T traumas, and they add up. And then, of course, I've talked about the global pandemic, There is there's a high intensity that of increase in anxiety levels, increase in depression levels, increase in domestic violence levels, rates, increase in addiction rates. So we know that people are adversely responding to this pandemic, and that includes you. You are also part of the community. So you, as an educator, you're being impacted too. And that's why we're here today. And when we talk about mental health, you know, I always want to pause and talk about what is mental health. Because when we talk about mental health, people think of mental illness. Okay, that's not what mental health is. Mental health is a state of your health. Mental health is your well-being and in how you operate in life, in how you cope in life, in how productive you are. So this is what I usually say. This is how I usually define it, is that you're emotionally healthy, you're psychologically healthy, you are socially relevant, you're spiritually connected, you're financially able to take care of yourself, you're relationally intimate, you're not afraid of intimacy in your relationships, and you can keep going on and on that way. So mental health basically is everything. Is what you do, the friends you have, it's the work that you do, it's how happy are you at work, how productive are you with your sense of self, who do you like yourself, do you have a sense of who you are within your environment. This is what we're talking about when we talk about mental health. It has to do with your spiritual life. It has to do with your social life. It has to do with your financial life. It has to do with your sex life. It has to do with all kinds of all of the context of humanity, making sure that those contexts function effectively. If they're doing that, then you're mentally healthy. That's what mental health is. And so when we talk about mental health of teachers, we're saying that we don't want you to put everything you have in healing the students, in teaching the students, sorry, not healing, in teaching the students, even though sometimes we do that, in teaching the students, in hearing their stories, and doing all the stuff that you do, but you don't take care of, look at yourself. And so when you get on an airplane, you know, when they start telling you what to do and how to protect yourself, the first thing they tell you is to put on your own mask. You know, you put on your own oxygen mask. You put on your own oxygen mask. Why is that important? Because you are the tool. You are important. If you don't function well, if your tool is not sharp, if the tool is not effective, then it's going to mess everything around it. It's going to mess up everything, all the things around it. And if you don't take care of yourself, you might not be alive to take care of that little baby or that person that is next to you. So you have to take care of yourself. So I'm hoping that this next hour or so, we just take care of us. We take care of ourselves. My dissertation was on years ago, it was on the psychological well-being of inner city teachers, and it was psychological well-being and collective self-esteem. So we are talking to ourselves about not just one person individually, but all of us collectively, because what impacts one person impacts the rest of the system, because we're all part of the system. So mental health, I hope that defines it for you. If you had anything different that you want to add, please make sure that you put it in the chat box. And then when we talk about mental illness, this is when you are emotionally or psychologically sick. And when that happens, it actually impacts work. And I like to put numbers down, especially for companies and organizations and school districts, so they can see this. Because when they see it, then they can put monies not just in training and helping students, but actually helping the educators. You know, the best money that can be spent by any school district is to take care of their teachers and take care of their principals and take care of the people who work there. And the best way to spend the monies and the university level is also to make sure that your instructors, your professors, and all are doing well. Everyone who student faces, anyone, student services, admissions, all of them, because if they're doing well, they will be more effective and you're going to get a good return on your investment. So $1 trillion is the cost to global productivity, affecting 615 million people around the globe. 50% increase in depression and anxiety. Those are very old numbers. And return on investment for mental health program is $4 for each dollar. 25% of students 13 to 18 are affected by anxiety, conflict, impulsive outbursts, bullying, social withdrawal disorder, and autism increasing. Substance abuse has a significant mental health overlap, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, dementia. All of these things are happening at work, are happening with your employees, are happening in teachers and staff and administrators, superintendents, everyone, and are being impacted by this. So it means that we need to prioritize educators when it comes to mental health. We must prioritize them. We need to make, because the teacher wellness is highly correlated to everything that you want as a university, as a school district. You want your children, your students to do well. You want your test scores to go up. You want students to be satisfied, and they want them to come to school. All of this is contingent. Research upon research has said it. It's contingent on the mental health of your educators, period. It means that they need to be doing okay so that they can do the best job in the classroom or outside the classroom as needed. So when we talk about trauma, one of the things I want to focus on today is trauma, because when we talk about trauma, what is it? What is trauma? When we're talking about trauma, some people always think of the big traumas. Just give me a minute. I want to move this over here. They talk about the big traumas, which are really injurious to us. If I have you to go on the chat box and list, when you talk about traumatic events, just list some things that could be traumatic that you've heard about on your school. It's happened to somebody in your school, maybe to you, it's happened in your life. So just list some traumatic events that has happened within your sphere of profession. So let's hear it. Let me see. People are writing stuff down before I actually engage in do this. Somebody's a miscarriage. I'm so sorry. Yes. What else? What else? Death, rejection. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It could be something that you've experienced, it could be something that maybe a staff member where you work experienced, or your students have experienced. But we all divorce, absolutely. What else? What else? Those are big T's. Those are big T traumas you guys are listing. Depression, yes. The big T traumas. Yeah. So keep writing. I'll check back in a minute. So a traumatic event, involves a single experience or enduring repeated or multiple experiences that completely overwhelms your ability to cope. Your ability to cope or integrate the ideas and the emotions involved in this experience. But one thing I want to leave you with is, when you talk about trauma, you remember these three things. When you talk about trauma, number one, trauma is unexpected. If you were expecting it, you will be prepared for it. So because it's unexpected, you are not prepared for it. So the first thing is, trauma is unexpected. The second thing is that you are unprepared for it. And the third thing is, it completely overwhelms you and there is nothing you could do to stop it. There was nothing you could have done to stop it. Trauma events are beyond your ability to control it. So sometimes after the trauma happens and you're trying to look back, and people, most people say, well, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do this? If I should have done better, I could have done that. Well, it wouldn't have been traumatic if you could have handled it. So trauma overwhelms your ability to respond. Now, one thing we should know, and let's see if I have it on this slide. One thing we should know, no, I don't. One thing we should know about trauma is that it can happen to anybody. So if you're a teacher and you're listening to me, if you're an entrepreneur, you're listening to me, if you are a parent, you're listening to me, if you are an administrator of any forms, you're listening to me, if you are a board member, anyone involved in this field, you should know that trauma happens. It happens. And so it happens to the people that you've hired. It happened to the people that stand in front of that room. I am, during this dissertation, one of the reasons I bring up this dissertation that I wrote all those years ago. One thing happened because for a whole year, I couldn't decide what to do. I could not bring myself to settle on a topic. And so here was I was, you know, I'd been a teacher for years, and now I was in psychology, and I didn't know if I should just stay with psychology or try to merge the two. I didn't know what to do. So for a whole year, I was trying to figure out what am I going to study? What am I going to study? And then something awful happened. A teacher friend of ours went to lunch and came back to teach his class, stood in front of the class and dropped dead in front of the students, just died. And I was just like, what? Oh my gosh. Like, what happened? I would never forget this. What happened? How is this possible? He went out for his, I think it was lunch or a break, came back and died in front of the class, you know? And you just begin to think, what is it about this profession? What is going on? Like, what gets us to the point where we now start, you know, passing out in front of dying in front of students? And so that was very traumatic, a very traumatic event, not just for the adults, but for the students in that class, and not just for the students in the class, for the entire school. It was a very traumatic moment. And so trauma happens. It happens during this pandemic. It's traumatic being at home all the time, teaching in front of a computer constantly. You know, that could cause people to start experiencing all kinds of distress. And I'm going to talk about distress. One of the things I want you to know, it's not the event itself that determines if you're going to be traumatized. It is not the event that determines that you're going to be traumatized. What determines that you're going to be traumatized is those three things I said. Your inability to meet the incoming trauma that's happening. That is, if it completely overwhelms you, if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the capacity, you don't have what it takes to deal with this event, then you can be traumatized. And so I think we've answered this question. Who can be traumatized? Anybody. So I know sometimes educators, we act like we have it all. You know, we're taking care of everybody. We take care of students. We take care of a family. We take care of this, and we have it together. But you know, today I just want you to take a check a little bit and see how well you're doing. How are you doing? How are you doing? Ask yourself that question. How are you doing? How are you doing emotionally? How are you doing psychologically? How are you doing? When was the last time you just woosah? So we're going to pause for a minute, and I want to see everybody's faces. And before I move on to the next screen, and we're just going to do exactly what I just did right now. So we are just going to breathe. Do you know, breathing is one of the most powerful tools that you can use to turn off cortisol, and I'm going to talk about that, that keeps pumping through your body during a stressful event. So we have to breathe. Somebody just came up. I just saw someone just said, I'm not fine. I'm so sorry. But here, let's all breathe. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to take a deep breath in through your nostrils. Okay, so you take it through your nostrils, and I want you to hold it and then breathe it out like you were blown into a balloon. So it goes like this. Watch me. I'm going to breathe in. This is what I do not want you to do. I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to do that. I want you to slowly, I want you to blow it out as if you were blown into a balloon and let it all out. And we're going to do it 3 times and take all the time you need. You're so worth this. This is your time. Don't rush it. You can close your eyes if you want. And we're going to do it 3 times. And everybody, please participate. So let's go. Okay, we're going to go on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go. Do the second one. Oh, feels good. Last one. All right. If you can turn on your camera, let me see you. How does that feel? Did you do that? And how did that make you feel? You can unmute yourself and say something. Oh, somebody said, yeah, okay, good. You did good. Who else? I want to hear from the rest of you. You can put it in the chat box. Felt great. Excellent, 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 excellent. All right.
Feel much better.
Ah, there we go. There we go. Oh, yes.
Yes.
I've
Reconnected to my body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Take some time during your day. I always tell people, if you went to the doctor, if you went to the physician and they said, oh, you have to take this medicine 3 times a day, they give you a prescription, you have to do this, we would all do it. We would all do it because that's the prescription from the doctor. And so we would do it, right? But well, guess what? This is a prescription for your mental health. It literally helps you create neural pathways of health. So make sure that you do it. Make sure that it's consistent. I actually have on my phone, I have an app called Breathe. So every like 2 minutes or so, we'll just say, okay, it's time to breathe, and then I just stop and I breathe. This because it relaxes you, it grounds you, it brings you center back into yourself. And instead of constantly, somebody said, build daily breath work into your daily routine. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so let's go back to our PowerPoint today. Here we go. All right, so we've talked about who can be traumatized. This is the big deal. This right here is not a good thing, and we're going to talk about it. All right, so vicarious trauma. Vicarious trauma. If you've talked to people when you say, I'm living vicariously through you, Vicarious trauma is yeah, we have other words for it. We call it compassion trauma. We call it there's another name that skips me right now. It's trauma that is coming because you're helping somebody, okay? Because you're helping another person in a growing number of professions, and I listed this because it's not only educators, it's law enforcement, firefighters, trauma doctors, nurses, child welfare workers, educators, therapists, people who are helping others in their worst times, in their places of pain. Well, what happens then is that when you're working with somebody, let's say your students, you're dealing with your students, they're telling you all their woes all the time, or just a stress, or just maybe some, or your could be another staff member. What it is the emotional residue, okay, that's coming from working with other people. When you hear their trauma stories, basically, you're witnessing their pain, you're witnessing all of their angst, you're witnessing all, and you're listening to all of the terrors and other consequences of their trauma. Guess what? Vicarious trauma, you begin to experience the same consequence. You begin to experience the same consequences. So somebody, all of the traumas that you listed in the chat box, if somebody's hearing your story and paying attention to you and helping you walk this journey, if that person doesn't take care of themselves, if you go to your class of, I don't know, 30 students or how many students, and you're walking their journey with them every day with them, and you don't take care of yourself, you are a candidate for vicarious trauma. You're a candidate for compassion trauma, because what happens is all of the experiences that they are, of the consequences that they're experiencing because of that initial trauma, is passed on to you. And all of a sudden you can't sleep. All of a sudden, you're withdrawing from your friends and family. And some of the symptoms I've written here, you're feeling unexplainable irritability, anger, you're feeling frustrated, or if you're feeling numb, you can't focus, you're blaming others, you're feeling hopeless or isolated or guilty about not doing enough. You're feeling that you're struggling to just concentrate, you're not able to sleep, you're dealing with insomnia that cannot be explained by menopause or anything else, you're overeating, not eating enough, you almost seem like you can't concentrate, and you feel fidgety, you feel like you can't just stay in one place, continually and persistently worrying about the students, when you're home, or even when you're asleep. So these are some of the things, the symptoms of vicarious trauma. These are some of the symptoms of vicarious trauma, and a lot of people in the helping professions experience this. And you're thinking, wait, nothing happened to me. Why am I feeling this way? It's because of the people you've been helping or you are helping. It's because of who that you're helping. And all helping professionals should listen to this. Vicarious trauma is real. Vicarious trauma is here to interrupt your lives. Vicarious trauma will cause you to feel the same thing as if you were the initial victim of that trauma. And it is almost like a trauma that keeps on giving, because if you don't feel good and you're not feeling good and you're expressing all the symptoms, and then you start talking to somebody and somebody else starts helping you and start listening to you and start walking through it, then they get traumatized and people just cycle the trauma around. And so you can have a workplace with traumatized people, and when you're traumatized in a workplace, you know that you're not your best self. So The prevalence of mental health issues is rising fast, and some of the maybe you've experienced some of this, and at work or in your lives. You know, attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder is on the rise. Social and anxiety disorders, personality disorders. We're not going to go through any of these disorders here today. Depressive and mood disorders. I just wanted to list them just so we're aware of them. Alcohol and other substance abuse, schizophrenia, borderline personality, bipolar disorders, narcissism. All of these things are, you know, prevalent in especially now that we have this global pandemic. We're seeing a rise in some of this. But one thing I want to focus on right today is the stressor, the high stress is what we're calling the trauma, right? So what is this stress? Stress is the psychological response to real or imagined threats that we feel unable to deal with. Okay, so like I just told you about the trauma. This trauma, high stress, the same thing. Okay, and so it can come from external, from our environments. It could be social situations, or it could be internal illnesses, a medical problem. Every type of demand or stressor, such as exercise, work, school, major life changes, trauma, everything can be stressful. Now, we have to determine as educators, what are our stressors? Is it just the school that's causing the stress? Is it just being a teacher that causes stress? Or are you also having stressors at home? And which one comes before? Is it because you're a teacher or you're an educator that you're stressed? Or are you stressed because of the person that you are and the environment that you're in? Does that make sense? So mental distress is the inner signal of anxiety or stress that a person has when something in their environment is demanding that they adapt to a challenge. Okay, so it's a stress signal. Okay, it's there's something wrong. That's when you start feeling those things that I just talked about earlier. It's a stress signal. You're feeling like something is off. I cannot deal with this. And once you start saying I can't deal with this, a signal goes off in your brain. Okay, and because something is immediately activated in the brain, and it's called the stress response system. Okay, in the stress response system, I'm not going to go into the details of here today. If you take any of our trauma courses or trauma workshops, I go into details about this about the brain and what happens there. But for this purposes, just a brief preview of this is, number one, when we talk about the stress response system, it is activated when it feels like something is happening that I'm not prepared for. It's unexpected and it completely overwhelms me. So the stress response system is almost like is one of those what do you call those emergency light goes off in your brain, and it's going, oh, we have a problem. It's an emergency. The body begins to react immediately. And so it begins to react. It begins to tell, the different sections of the brains begin to say what to do, what not to do. And these are some of the things that are produced in your body. So the adrenaline is produced. And adrenaline is when all of this is going on in your body. The first hormone that is released is adrenaline. It's also known as epinephrine, and it is a hormone that's released from the adrenal gland. And its job is to help you fight off or fight or flee. It tells you that this is how we're going to do. And of course, there's another reaction called freeze, and we're not going to deal with that in this topic today either. And so when adrenaline is pumping in your body, you can do a lot of things. First of all, the signal that adrenaline is pumping in your body is what you have an increased heart rate. Your blood pressure increases, expansion in your lungs, and your pupils enlarged. you have all kinds of metabolic stuff that's been altered in your body, so that you can focus on the trauma, so that you can focus on the trauma, so that you can deal with the trauma. So literally some parts of your body is actually quarantined so that it doesn't function. Trauma is stored in the body. Your cognition doesn't participate in trauma. In the high stress situation, your cognition doesn't participate. The respiratory sides of reproductive sides, metabolic side of your body, they are literally taken away so that you can focus on dealing with this trauma. Okay, so when adrenaline is pumping and it subsides, okay, so messages are sent again to the body and to parts of the brain and says, look, this is not enough. The adrenaline is not enough. There is still danger and we still need help. So then what happens is cortisol begins to be released. Now, cortisol by itself is a good hormone. Cortisol by itself, you all have it. We all secrete it in good measure. You know, it helps us increase sugar in the bloodstream, enhances our brain use of glucose. I mean, like it does. It's also the hormone that's present when you sleep. I mean, so many things that cortisol does, and but it's also there during this fight or freeze, when there's an emergency, when there's a trauma, when there's a high stress. And what happens is it suppresses, like I was telling you before, it suppresses everything: digestive system, reproductive systems, growth systems. So sometimes when you say we have people that are suffering from all kinds of issues that are medical issues, you have to go look at their stress levels, because that could be the reason that this is happening. Now, what is supposed to happen? What is supposed to happen is that this chemicals and this hormones and this stuff that's going on in your body is supposed to help you fix the problem, and then the body is supposed to go back to equilibrium. The body is supposed to relax, fix the problem, and then relax. That's what's supposed to happen. But what then happens is this. What happens is, if the problem doesn't stop, okay, if it's incessant, if the problem is persistent, if it's pervasive, then cortisol doesn't shut off. So what is supposed to be adaptive becomes maladaptive. So you can have blood pressure issues, you can have respiratory issues, you can have reproductive issues, you can have all kinds of issues will come because the stressor doesn't go away. And here's the kicker. Your brain doesn't know the difference between something that is imagined and something that is real. So every time you think about that trauma, every time that you think about that student that got you really upset, or that principal, or that teacher, or that, distributor, whoever got you so upset that and just triggered something in you, every time you ruminate on it, your body thinks you're going through that trauma again. So what is supposed to come to your rescue and then go away becomes persistent in your life and messes everything up. It develops the fear and the anger and the bitterness and all of the consequences of highly stressed lives and traumatic lives just becomes normal. And when they become normative, what then happens is we think that's life. We think that's how we're supposed to live. And we live the pseudo lives. That's not the way You were meant to live life. And these are some of the consequences of long-term activation: anxiety, depression, digestive problems, heart disease, sleep problems, weight gain, memory and concentration impairments, PTSD. All of these things happen. I think I've talked about mental distress. So it's your turn. We're going to take a test and see what your levels of stressors are. Okay, so as a group, are we still here? Yeah, talk to me. Are you guys with me? Unmute yourself, say yes, or raise your hand, or type in yes or no. Let me see if you're still participating. I'm not by myself. Okay.
Yes,
thank you. Okay, thank you. Excellent. Just making sure, just checking in. I got to check in to see if you're with me. Excellent. Now, this is a stress response. Let's see that there are about two of them I'm going to go over with you. So you're going to take this test. So you're going to circle the responses you've had in the past 2 weeks. I'm going to read them out. You just, on your own, just write down the ones that you've experienced the last 2 weeks, okay? So physical responses: muscle aches that are unexplainable. So if you went dancing or you did an exercise and you kind of worked yourself out, right? And you have sore muscles, that's not this one. This is muscle aches that are unexplainable, increased heart rate, weight gain, constipation, muscle twitching, low energy, tight chest, dizziness, stomach cramps, insomnia, headache, nausea, dry mouth, weight loss, weakness, diarrhea, trembling, chills, sweating, choking feeling, leg cramps, hot flashes, pounding hearts, chest pain, numb or tingling hands and feet, increased blood pressure. Now, remember what I said, this must not be explainable by anything else. So if you have a cold, if you have the flu, then we're not talking to you. If you had, what do you call it? COVID-19 at some point, last 2 weeks, that's not what we're talking about. So this have to be unexplainable by any other medical reason, okay? So let's just stay here a little bit longer. I'm going to read it again. So it's muscle aches, increased heart rate, weight gain, constipation, muscle twitching, low energy, tight chest, dizziness, stomach cramps, insomnia, headaches, nausea, dry mouth, weight loss, weakness, diarrhea, trembling, chills, sweating, choking feeling, leg cramps, hot flashes, pounding hearts, chest pain, numb or tingling hands and feet, and increase in blood pressure. If you have experienced, circle the ones that you've experienced in the past 2 weeks. All right. How about your emotions, your emotional thoughts and responses? This one is these are your emotions. Oh, restlessness, agitation, worthlessness, depression. These are big ones. Guilt, anger, nightmares, sensitivity. You're just sensitive to everything. You find yourself just crying about everything. And numbness, you don't feel anything. You feel nothing. Mood swings, low concentration, preoccupation. You get preoccupied with thoughts in your head. Insecurity, anxiety, stress, depression, hopelessness, defensiveness, racing thoughts, intense thinking, expecting the worst. You're always expecting the other shoe to drop. Lack of motivation, forgetfulness, rigidity, and intolerance. if you have any of this, okay, and you're finding that you have experienced this in the last 2 weeks, make sure you circle those. This is behavioral. Behavioral, you start avoiding people, you start avoiding things that you used to like. You neglect yourself, you neglect others. You start smoking, or you increase the number of cigarettes you smoke in a day. Your appearance is poor. You're not taking care of yourself. You just, you get out of bed, you get up. I mean, you're teaching online or you're doing your stuff online and people can only see that. So you just, wash your face and you get there, you're not taking care of yourself. You start spending too much or you increase your spending. You're not eating enough, nail biting, you increase talking. You just talk to everybody, talk. Sexual problems, fidgeting, you're not exercising anymore, you lose interest in it. Aggressive speaking, everything, like, it's almost like everything, you're on edge constantly. You're sleeping a lot, you're not sleeping either way. Relaxing activities is reduced. You withdraw, you increase your alcohol use, you increase eating, arguing constantly, poor hygiene, seeking reassurance. You can't really make up your mind. You're constantly asking somebody, to help you, to validate you. Skin picking, increase your body checking, foot tapping, rapid walking, teeth clenching, multitasking, and you no longer have any fun activities. If you're having any one of this, okay, if you have any one of this that we've talked about, and you have if you have at least the 5 or more, okay, please get help. Please get help. Get help. Get help. Get help. You need to talk to somebody. One of the things that we're doing is we've set up a private Facebook page. You can just type in Educators Wellness Place. We've set up a private Facebook page just for educators. And here is what we're going to do. One of the things that we're going to do is in April, we're starting a self-care program for educators. So starting April, we won't start on the 1st. We're starting April 2nd. We're starting a self-care program just for educators. You're going to have me, you're going to have other mental health specialists that we're going to bring in, that some of them are already waiting for you on the page, by the way, in the group, by the way. So make sure that you sign up for that. And it is, let me put it again, it is Educators Wellness Place. So if you go on Facebook, you can find it. And then we're developing wellness programs that's targeted towards educators, and wellness groups where you can have group coachings and you can be in a group, and they're therapeutic groups. And also, if you need a therapist, we can refer you to one. And we have trauma coaches all across the globe that are willing to help. There's something about resiliency, that teachers are resilient, educators are resilient in all factors of their lives. We are resilient people. That's why you're here. We're pretty resilient. And look, resilience is defined as a process of adapting well in the face of adversity. Okay, if you adapt well, you have your own defense mechanisms. You have mechanisms that helps protect you, and so that you can bounce back from the difficult experiences. So we're all resilient. Some of you can tell me what are some of your resiliency bounce that you do. So I want to share this before we go. So if you're in a state, I don't want to do this so that I don't tell you all the bad stuff and not tell you any good things, right? Because we're going to be finished in a minute. So if you're in a state of overload, you're agitated and mindless busyness. Okay, so what I need you to do is to delete, delegate, and focus. Okay, so delete, delegate, and focus. So if you have too much, if you have a overload and you're feeling agitated and you just state of busyness, choose 3 things. Okay, that's it. Delete 3 things, delegate 3 things, and focus on 3 things. That's what I want you to do. Delete 3 things from your menu, from your to-do list. Delegate and focus. Delete, delegate, and focus. If you have a loss of attention, boredom, worry, okay, so one of the things is recognize it, stretch. That means physically stretch, like stretch. Do your stretches. Do that. Coffee break. That's a coffee break, but I really wouldn't drink coffee. I would either do something else. Drink water. Water is good for you. Eat protein and get some sun. All right. Just get out into the sunlight. That's always good. And loss of energy, avoidance, isolated. Talk to somebody. Look, a lot of things can be avoided, can be mitigated if you talk to somebody, and talk to somebody who you can help. There's no need talking to somebody who can't help you. So talk to somebody, connection. In this pandemic, people are in their houses, they're not really going out, so it's really difficult. But whoever you're home with, it's always good to connect, give hugs, give, touch. Those things are important. Shop, play sports, have me time. Very important. If you feel indifferent, you're neglecting yourself, you're fatigued, well, guess what? Sleep. I want you to sleep. Sleep is body's work. Sleep is important. I can't even begin to go into the ramifications of a sleepless person, a person who has little to no sleep, and also the benefits of sleep. So sleep, have a long weekend. It's okay. Take a self-care weekend. Wellness initiatives like what we're doing now, this initiatives we're going to be doing for educators, be a part of it. Be a part of it. Be a part of our Facebook group. Look, it's funny because it's not, I have enough Facebook groups. I don't need to be forming another one, but this just is important. This is important and we want to do it. Indifference, did I talk about that? Stress symptoms, sleep problems, illness, that's get help, get some counseling. When you're distressed, you need some counseling. Please, people spend money on sneakers, they get money on clothes, they spend money on their hair, they spend money and they don't want to spend money on the counseling. Get help, pay for it. You are worth it. You're worth it. You need to get some help. And then there's some free and reduced counseling where they charge you based on what you make, and there's some that are completely free. So find someone and get some counseling. Counseling literally helps you. It doesn't impede you. So, and then exercise. I always tell people, serotonin, you can get that reuptake by exercising. You can get it all balanced up because low levels of serotonin in your brain equals to depression. You're going to feel blur. You're going to feel like you have the blues. You're going to feel like you don't want to do anything. That's low levels of serotonin. But one of the ways you can increase your levels of serotonin, apart from taking SSRIs, medication, one of the ways you can increase is by what? Is by exercising, walking, running, swimming, whatever you do in the exercise. This morning I danced, so however you want to do it, you get all of those good hormones. Dopamine is reduced, serotonin is reduced. And so you are getting what you need by making sure that you're exercising. Mindfulness, and meditation. How do you change neural pathways, which I have not even scratched the surface, maybe on another time. When you talk about neural pathways that are now strongholds in your life, because every time you think about the trauma, every time you think about the event that happened, you are strengthening the neural pathways. And so the more you think about it, the more strengthened the neural pathways are. And so it becomes a lifestyle. So you don't even know how to change anymore, but one of the ways you can change those neural pathways is through mindfulness and meditation. You just begin to focus in, begin to think of the things of who you are and who you want to become, and be still and being aware of yourself, knowing that you are important. Knowing that even though you have all of the students you have to cater for, you have the school that you have to be a part, that you're in charge of, you have this districts that you have to manage, and all of the other things that also add to that, your family, your friends, and everything. But during mindfulness and meditation, you literally become one with yourself. Okay, so those thoughts might come. Let them go through, but bring to yourself some thoughts of affirmation, some thoughts of clarity of who you are, who you want to be. And slowly but surely, you will begin to change those neural pathways that have kept you in bondage for so long. So sometimes it is not somebody that is doing something to us. It is not, in Christianity, we might say it's the devil, it's the demon. Sometimes it's literally your mind that has set itself against you because of the trauma that you have experienced. So when you we didn't even talk about childhood traumas. When you experience those developmental traumas, they have a way of impacting your decisions in life. So one of the easiest way to change this, people, is through meditation and mindfulness. So Google it, and there's so many practices on there. So choose one and work it. And the last one is when you're just disabled, do all of these things, but get your resilience bounce back. Okay, get it back. Get it back. Rest. Slow things down. In trauma, everything is elevated. Everything is elevated. You want to bring it down. All right? Rest. Drink water. I can't say enough of this. Drink water, drink water, drink water, drink water, drink water, drink water. The hydration saps your brain's energy. Okay? It actually literally impedes your brain serotonin production. So when you don't drink water, the production is not enhanced in your brain. And then what happens is that you get depressed. So drink water, drink water, drink water. And sign up for our trauma healing group, coaching group. And that's it. How you all doing? Are you still with me?
Yes,
unmute yourself.
Can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So what we want you to do is go on your Facebook and look for that. I think, is it already on the chat? Is it in the chat room? I think Bingpe should put it on the chat. It's called the Educator Wellness Place. It's a group on Facebook that I literally just created this morning. So that is where we're going to meet. We're going to have a week in April. 1 week, it's a 1 week program we're designing for you, and it's a free program. So you get on it. It's a free program for you. It's 1 week, and we're going to go through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, different things that you can do, and that's why you should be on this program. So get on Facebook. If you have any questions, let me know. I see some things are going on here. Oh, okay, said, oh yeah, don't worry. If you have something going on in April, we're doing it every month. So there's gonna be one in April, there's gonna be one in May. So just what, but there will be different ones. It won't be the same thing. Does that make sense? So don't worry about it. Just go ahead and sign up. All right, any questions? If not, I don't see any questions here. Is Bingpe there? Okay, I don't see
Yes,
being.
yes, I'm here.
Okay,
I'm
you're
trying
not.
to get the link.
Okay.
I'm trying to get the link.
All right. So pains on. I'm just reading all of your comments here. Anybody has anything to say? Any questions they want to ask me before we exit? Because we're pretty much finished now. And just make sure you sign up. Sign up. Sign up. Sign up. Okay. Okay. There it is. Thank you. That's the link. Just click on that link. You're going to answer some questions. It's going to ask you for your email. Don't be surprised about your email. We just need your email so we can send you information when we need it. So so click on that and get on Facebook, sign up, and I'll see you guys on Facebook. Okay. All right. All right. That's it. We're done. We're going to stop recording now. I'm going to remove the spotlight so I can see the rest of you guys. Yes, you're going to get notified every time we are organizing stuff. We need your email. That's why when you get on Facebook, we're collecting your emails from there so we can notify you, okay? You're going to get notified.
Someone has been raising a hand for a while now.
Oh, who is that?
That's Lily Agbefo. She's been raising her hand for a while. Lily, if you have a question, please let us have it. Please unmute yourself and give us your question.
I don't think she has a question. We're good. All right, ladies and gentlemen. See you, Vanessa Williams. I see you. Innocent.
That's great. Thank you.
All right, Vanessa, you should be doing this with me, by the way. Oroma? Is that how to say it? Oroma, you have to unmute. Yeah, there you go. Okay, how you doing? All right. Felicia Tamuno, are you related to Alali Tamuno?
No, just a coincidence.
Oh, okay. Dickinson, is it Ellie? How do you say your name?
Hi, yeah, it's Ellie.
Ellie, okay, Ellie. Now, are you the one from Australia?
No, I'm from the UK.
Oh, in the UK, okay, all right.
Yeah,
all right.
I wanted to say thank you so much for tonight. It was really informative, and like I'm a psychology specialist as well, and it was brilliant. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Good to please join us on Facebook because we need you on there.
I will. Facebook. I've screenshotted it, so I'm about to do it like right now.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Vanessa, I hope you because we need all your mental health specialists on there. So go ahead and join it, right?
I will definitely be joining after today.
Excellent. Yeah, Hola. Somebody said you need to go. I saw you. You're gonna see somebody, right? Please do.
Can I ask a question, Felicia?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah, I think it's actually thank you. I found the session very, very beneficial because most of the issues you talked about are actually it's actually a coincidence that for the past 2 weeks I've been going through a lot. I actually had high blood pressure
oh my God.
2 weeks ago. So I was told to take things easy. And some of the symptoms you talked about, the emotional, and I think I was able to identify with some of the symptoms. And what I did this past 2 weeks was just trying not to talk too much, rest, take things easy. I had to slow down, especially at work. Most of the pressure things I had to do at work, I had to slow down. So it was very beneficial towards the end of your session. So I don't know if I could listen to it again because I couldn't join in at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to post it on the Facebook page. Okay. We'll post it, and it will post it on the Facebook page, and it's also on YouTube. So my YouTube is Akin Marino. So you can get on there. It's my name, Akin Marino. So you can get it, and it should be on there. Give it like an hour or so before. Also, I think, I don't know. See if you can access it now. I don't know how YouTube thing does this thing. sometimes I still see saying live after about an hour. I'm like, this thing is finished like an hour ago. I don't know why it's still live. So just give it time and it would reset itself. Lily.
Okay. What about sending a recording to us to the email addresses?
Bingpe.
So the land is created to
Bingpe, answer that question, please.
to be like
Link to the YouTube page.
about what? But not
Maybe mute your mic, please.
habitation.
Okay.
The link to the YouTube page is on the chat room.
Okay.
Right. So just have that link down. You can access it now, and even after the event is over, you'll still have it. By the time we're looking at 1.5, the gigabytes, if we want to download the recording and send to everybody, we will not be able to do that by email. We will still have to house it somewhere, and it's already on YouTube. So just click on the link and go there.
So Felicia, did you hear that? The link is in the chat box. So please just click on it and it will take you right there. Ellie, did you raise your hand?
Hi, yeah, I did. I was just wondering, so I do a lot of work with sort of improving well-being of the staff at my school, and so we do a lot of work with holding people accountable for their behaviors and sort of how that helps you to link to success and etc. And I was just wondering, would you be interested in just helping a little bit with that? Maybe if we could have a conversation at some point, I'd be really grateful for that.
Okay, let's have a conversation offline. I'm always interested in anything that is well-being and wellness. So let's have a conversation online. Offline. How does she get in touch with me? How do you get in touch with me? I don't know.
I just joined your Educators Wellness Place group.
Oh, absolutely. There we go. So we'll talk. Let's talk.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Anyone else? Anything else before we go? Okay, looks like we have exhausted a lot of people are writing things down. Thank you so much. It's been informative. I feel refreshed. What I wanted to do, that is one of the reasons why I want you to join the page, is we got a lot of learning today, a lot of information. Information never really changes anything. Education is changed in behavior, right? So you can get a lot of information. We need to get it from here, and we need that information to change your neural pathways. We need it to change the trauma that is lodged in your body. That's what we want. And that doesn't happen in a day. It happens over a period of time. So let's do that together. All right. Okay. Bye, ladies.